Latin present indicative of first, second, and fourth conjugation verbs. First, second, and fourth conjugation verbs are very similar. Unlike third and third IO verbs, they are marked by a strong long vowel in the infinitive before the R. First conjugation verbs, for instance, have a long A. Here's a non-deponent example. Porto, portari, portavi, portatum, to carry. Notice the long A in portare. That is the mark of the first conjugation. And here's a deponent example. Conor, conari, conatus sum, to try. Again, notice the long A in the infinitive. That's the mark of the first conjugation. Second conjugation verbs have a long E. Here's a non-deponent example. Docio, docere, docui, doctum, to teach. Docere, the infinitive, has a long E. And here's a deponent example. Policior, policeri, policitus sum, to promise. Again, the infinitive policeri has a long E. The long E is the mark of the second conjugation. Do not confuse these verbs with third or third IO conjugation verbs, which have a weak vowel that expresses itself as a short E in the active infinitive. As, for example, in the case of the third conjugation verbs agere, ducere, and the third IO conjugation verbs capere, facere. All four of those verbs have short E's in their infinitive. They are not second conjugation. Fourth conjugation verbs have a long I. Here's a non-deponent example. Invenio, inveniri, inveni, inventum, to find. Notice a long I in the infinitive. That's the mark of the fourth conjugation. And here's a deponent example. Experior, experiri, expertus sum, which means to experience. Notice the long I in the infinitive envenere and the infinitive experiri. That is the mark of the fourth conjugation. In each of these three verb types, the present stem is formed by removing RE, or RI for deponents, from the infinitive. So here are some examples of forming present stems. Portare gives us porta. Conare, the infinitive, gives us cona. The infinitive docere gives us doce. The infinitive policere gives us police. The infinitive inveniri gives inveni. And the infinitive expiriri gives expiri. Those are the present stems. All we did is remove the RE or the RI from the infinitive in each case. To form the present tense, we just have to add the appropriate personal endings to the present stem. Latin has two major sets of personal endings. It has the active endings and it has the passive endings, which also are for deponent verbs, because deponent verbs have only passive forms, so they use the passive endings. And by the way, O and OR are used in the present indicative for regular Latin verbs, not M and R. So we aren't really going to be looking at endings in M and R in this particular presentation. We're only going to see O and OR. Here's an example. Let's look at the first conjugation verb porto, portare, portavi, portatum. The stem is porta from portare. We removed the re from portare. We got porta. And here's what happens when the personal endings hit that stem. It's interesting. When the O, that means I, hits porta, the A disappears and it becomes porto. That's because A, the Latin sound A, and the Latin sound O are very close in the mouth. And essentially what happened is the O just sort of overwhelmed the A, and the A completely disappeared. Then portas, and then portat. Notice how the A shortens before final T. Generally speaking in Latin, vowels right before final consonants cannot be long. They must be short. That's a general rule in Latin. It's not universal, but it's generally true. The one big exception is the letter S. If you have a final S in a word, the vowel before it can be short or long. But if you have any other consonant at the end of a word, the vowel will be short, and so that A has to shorten. We have portamos, portatis, and finally portant. Here's another rule of vowel length. Okay? It happens that all vowels in the Latin language before NT, anywhere in the language, anywhere in a word, are short. So the A before NT must shorten. Here's the passive of porto, portati, portavi, portatum. Again, we're merely going to add the personal endings, this time the passive personal endings. One is portor. Once again, the A has been wiped out by the O sound in OR, in portatis, in portatur. And you might notice here that the A in portatur does not shorten because it's no longer final. In portat, in the active, it was before the final it's before the final T and it's shortened. But it's no longer before a final consonant, so it doesn't shorten. Portamur, portamini, portantur. The A before the NT of portantur must shorten because any vowel before NT anywhere in the language is short. And now let's look at the deponent verb. The deponent verb is going to conjugate just like the passive of porto, because deponent verbs are essentially verbs that have only passive forms. And here we go. So conor, conaris, conatur, conamur, conamini, conantur. It behaves just like the passive of porto. Let's look at the second conjugation now. We're going to look at the verb moneo, monere, monui, monetum. The stem in the present indicative is mone. We get that from the infinitive monere by removing the re. That's the stem mone right here. That's the stem. And now we're going to add our endings. Moneo. It's interesting what happens here. The sound of Latin e, is far enough away in the mouth from the o that it didn't get completely wiped out, right? The e sound remains, but it shortens because of a common rule in Latin. And that rule is that vowels before other vowels in Latin are short. So any vowel right before another vowel is short in Latin with a very few exceptions. And that's why the e has to shorten. It remains, but it must shorten. We have mones, monet. Notice how the e is once again shortening before the final t. Monemus, monetis, and monet. And once again, that e must shorten before nt. And here is the passive ammonio. So we're going to put passive endings on the stem mone. We went out with monior. Once again, the e remained, but it's shortened before or because it's before another vowel. Monedis, monetur. And notice how the e remains long there because it's no longer final. Monemur, monemini, monenter. And again, the e must shorten before nt. Here is a deponent verb. Polikeor, polikeri, polikidesum. This is second conjugation like monio, and it's going to conjugate just like the passive of monio. So we went over with polikeor, polikeris, poliketur, polikemur, polikemini, polikentur. Let's move on to the fourth conjugation. The fourth conjugation is marked by a long I in the infinitive, as in invenire, and to make the stem, we really remove the re from invenire, and we get inweni. So we have invenio. Notice how, once again, the I was not wiped out by the O, as happened with the A in Porto. It remains, but once again, it must shorten because it's before another vowel. Then invenis, invenit, and again, the I must shorten before final T. Invenimos, invenitus, inveniant. Now this is goofy. This is not what you would expect. This form, unfortunately, for fourth conjugation verbs merely has to be memorized. It's not predictable. It's not what you would expect. So you have to add a unt in fourth conjugation verbs for the third person plural. And here goes the passive invenio, inveniere, inveni, inventus. So we wind up invenior. Again, the I shortens before or. Inveniris, invenitur, invenimus, invenimini, inveniuntur. Again, we have this intrusive U. That's not what you expect. You get inveniuntur, and that just has to be memorized. Now we're going to do a deponent verb in the fourth conjugation. Mentior, mentiri, mentitus sum. This is a verb that means to lie. You might know the English word mendacious, which is a mendacious person lies a lot. It's related to this word. So mentior, mentiri, mentitus sum means to lie, and it is fourth conjugation and deponent, and it's going to conjugate just like the passive of invenio. So we wind up with mentior, mentiris, mentitur, mentimur, mentimini, mentiuntur. And that form, again, must be memorized. It's not predictable. And that is the end. Thank you very much.